The killer who drowned an 8-year-old black boy gets 2 years in prison. That's it. That's all. What's this child's life worth? In an update, the Georgia mother of an 8-year-old black boy who was drowned by a white 11-year-old is outraged at the 2-year sentence that has been handed out. A judge in Wayne County, Georgia, handed down a 2-year sentence to the second child responsible for the drowning death of 8-year-old Noah Bush. There's the picture. Gets me every time. He should be with us, and his life mattered. During the sentencing hearing, August 22nd, the 11-year-old confessed to pushing Noah into a clay construction pit filled with water and holding his head underwater until he drowned. So kids are kids unless they behave in this fashion. And it reminds me of how they describe other kids who grew up to do heinous things on repeat. What child do you know who's capable of that?
With millions watching and many people benefiting from this program called Indisputable, we just need 1% of the viewers to become a paid member so we can continue to bring this content to you. Now back to the show.
Noah's mother gave a statement on the sentencing. I feel he deserves life in prison. He took his life, never showed remorse for his actions, said Noah's outraged mother, Demetrius Bush, during her powerful victim impact statement before the judge. Even though he knows right from wrong, even though he lied to keep himself out of trouble because he knew what he did was wrong, he's treated as a victim when it's my son who's dead. What if the roles would have been reversed? An 11-year-old black perpetrator, a black boy, held the head of an 8-year-old white boy underwater. Would he be treated as he's only 11, would he be treated as a victim? Would the perp be treated as the victim? It's my question. Mediate with the reporting. Police had initially ruled the death an accident. Noah's family hired a private investigator who discovered information that led to the arrest of the 2 boys. That looks like the police didn't even want to touch it, huh? Nothing to see here? Kids drown sometimes, as unfortunate as that is. 11-year-old pleaded guilty to all 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter. Well, I thought the note said he held the head underwater until he drowned. Involuntary manslaughter, simple battery, concealing the death of another, and criminal trespass. And the judge gave the child 2 years in confinement, the maximum penalty allowable in the state. Somehow I just feel like they would have gotten around it if the perp here were a black boy. There will be a second hearing in 30 days to determine the damages owed to the Bush family. Natalie Hardison, who's mom to the convicted 11-year-old, is being held in jail on a felony charge of providing false information to police during the investigation. She appeared at a hearing via video. The other culprit, a 10-year-old boy, was sentenced last month for his involvement in the murder. He'll also spend 2 years in the detention center. Now, the Bush family believed the homicide was racially motivated. Francis Johnson, an attorney for the Bush family, said in a statement that the homicide appeared to be racially motivated and will press for prosecution against the adults who were responsible for promoting hate to their children. During the investigation, a video allegedly emerged showing the 11-year-old beating up a black child and calling him the N-word. Mayor, I'm mindful that children are children and they sometimes do horrific things. This, though, has so many layers, and we could walk it backwards if you like about how these children were indoctrinated with hate. But I just hate that you have a family who will never again be with their little boy. And what do they have to show for it? Grief, flower bringing, a lot of slow singing, and then a 2-year sentence.
Yeah, I think the justice system has never been successful or sufficient to provide justice to Black people when we are the victims of heinous crimes as this. We watched the cop who killed a young Tamir Rice get a job as a police officer again. We watched so many other officers walk away without being charged as they took innocent Black lives. And this is American tradition. This is as American as apple pie and baseball, to kill Black people and walk free. We think about the youngest person ever in American history in the 20th century to receive the death penalty, George Staney in South Carolina, 14-year-old, even though we know the science said it was impossible for the murders that he was charged for. It shows that white people has this capacity not to really give a damn about justice as long as Black people are made to pay for it. And I'm frustrated at this a lot because they want to finish it up and say, well, the judge's hands were tied because that was the max that this kid could have got under the state law. Well, this child shouldn't have been charged with this charge, the wrong charge. This is not involuntary manslaughter.
Yep, nice try.
He didn't fall off your bike and you rolled backwards over him, right? You held his head underwater and murdered him. You murdered this child. And you have a history of showing up in this manner. So absolutely, the adults are just like the adult who bought the gun and made sure that their son had a gun and to shoot it up north. Just like they were, the two parents was charged in that. These parents should be held accountable. The N-word and these ideas, where are they coming from? So you're not monitoring your kids. And if you're responsible till they're 18, then you damn well need to be responsible. And this child shows that the parents raising him were not responsible and making him one of these racist people that we got to deal with in the future.
And you're so right about the charges, okay? That's why I mentioned the police. Why would a mother, a grieving family, have to hire a private investigator who I'm sure it was worth the money, sadly, but the private investigator was able to uncover evidence, I would guess, not that hard, not that difficult. That's why I don't believe the police wanted to even go there, because there, by the grace of God, is a more valuable being. Two white boys. We don't want to ruin their whole life. Oh, but a Black boy is dead and buried. We don't want to ruin their whole life. Kids will be kids. That's why I mentioned, what if the shoe were on the other foot? And you're right about the hate part too, sticks and stones. Somebody needs to rewrite that. Because when it leads to other things, such as the brutal murder, you're right. So, somebody didn't push somebody, they fell down, hit their head, and unfortunately, the worst. Do you know what it takes to hold someone's head underwater? I would venture the answer is no. You've never done it, but try to imagine that as someone is fighting, desperate for air, oxygen, knowing they are going to die. That's no easy feat. The horror that he must have experienced, pushed in, head held underwater until he drowned. And then, time to come home for dinner, kids. Okay, Mom, I'll be right there. 2 years is not nearly enough, even if I need these kids to have intense psychological treatment here. I'll give you the last word, Mayor.
Yeah, I mean, the police is doing what the police are doing, right? Like we got to remember, I want to remind people, I know I sound like a broken record when we talk about police officers, but these are, the second cousins to slave catchers. Police departments were not always a thing in America. They came from what were slave catchers.
It's tough to imagine that little boy's final moments, just gut-wrenching. It's gut-wrenching. It's a story we'll keep following. You heard the family's lawyer, the Bush family lawyer, saying that they are not going to let it go. They believe this was racially motivated. Indisputable will stay on it.